I wish someone had told me about this idea because it would have saved me probably 7 years of a lot of internal suffering that most of the time I wasn't even aware of, but was reflected in how my life was not aligned with what I wanted it to be. And so that's why I don't read books anymore. And I used to read a lot of books. I used to be addicted to podcasts, books, YouTube videos, all these things where I would learn from. And I ultimately realized that nothing was changing from all the information and knowledge that I was getting. And so what I want to review is what was creating this desire to actually read and learn so much, and how it was actually keeping me stuck in the same place that I was trying to get out of. It was like a loop. And what I do now, and how that is a different kind of loop that actually supports me in having the life that I want and enjoying myself now. So I want to start over here on this side, which is the underlying reason or why I read books was to make myself better, was to learn more things, so that once I know more things, then I can be a better person, or I can be a better communicator, or I can make more money, or I can have better relationships, or I can have all these things in the future. And so by wanting a different future, I am buying into the idea that I do not like myself as I am right now, or I am not good enough for the things that I want, or I don't like myself, I don't believe that I deserve, in this current version of who I am, the things that I want. And so I need to change myself in order to be good enough to have all the things that I want. And I want to emphasize how important this is, because that is actually a very, very deep place of suffering inside, a very deep place of being overlooked, of not being loved, of not being supported in the ways that we actually need. And so this is creating so much distortion and shame on the inside, and I'll explain that in a moment, because essentially what happens is, by reading, I'm learning information, and I think, wow, now I learned this thing. So now as I'm learning this thing, this is all subconsciously happening, right? Now as I'm learning this thing, now I have a next piece so that I can get to the next step. Oh, now I finally understand the thing that I need to do in order to have the life that I want, or to get to the next piece. And so what happens is I don't actually take, anyone who's read books has had this experience. You learn, you highlight, if you take notes. I used to take notes sometimes. You learn all these things and you make relatively little change. If you learn 100 things, maybe you take 2 to 3 things at most, if any. A lot of times I would read books and there would actually be no tangible change. Even if I thought that I was making change, there was actually no objective change in my life after reading that book. And so in my mind, I think that I'm creating all this progress, but in reality, I'm not. My life is the same. And there's a part of me, my subconscious recognizes this gap. There's this gap where I think that I'm over here, but my reality, objectively, is here. And so as I'm learning more and more, I'm creating this illusion, or I'm creating these distortions of what my life actually is compared to what I think it is. And so this is the idea of pride, right? Of getting bigger and bigger, and I essentially need to continue on this hamster wheel, because if I stop, I'm like a shark. Like sharks always have to keep swimming even when they sleep. If I stop swimming, then I die, basically. And so it just continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And what I'll get to in a moment is essentially that's what you have to do when you're on this wheel. You have to die, not physically, but to your old self. That's what I had to do. I had to die to my old self and realize, oh, it's like a rubber band coming in, snapping. Realize all the distortions that I was living in, all the lies that I was telling myself, because I was ignoring the obvious things in my life that weren't working, and I was just learning as a form of escapism. And I can promise you that if you look at anybody who reads a lot of books, it is not just because they enjoy learning. We have to dig deeper. We have to ask, why do they enjoy learning? Or why do they enjoy reading? Why? Why don't they just enjoy enjoyment in life right now? What is it that they can't sit with themselves? Or maybe they can sit with themselves. What is it that they can't just go out with their friends and have a good time? Why am I always... These are all questions that ring very true to me. Why was it that I could not go out and go to the park for 2 hours without thinking about all the things that I'm learning, or that I'm supposed to be doing, or that I'm supposed to be improving within myself? And so ultimately we have to come to this realization of what is actually changing in our life compared to what I'm learning. And the idea is that I was working towards a future that never actually came. And so that's where the pain comes in, because I feel like I'm working so hard, but it's not actually working. And there's this idea that something in the future that I can then get, or I can learn enough things to have a good enough job or enough money, and then I have that thing, then I'll be happy. And it's a backwards way, even though this is the way that most of the world looks at it, it's a backwards way from how reality actually works, which is that when I feel complete as I am, even in my imperfections, then I enjoy myself, and through that enjoyment, I'm enjoying the process. And because of that enjoyment, I'm actually getting to the future that I want faster, and I'm enjoying the process to get there. And so the journey is the destination, and the destination comes faster. So that's the backwards way that most people look at the world. And so I'll just touch on this real quick. This is what I was mentioning about the shark. Like, what happens if I stop? What happens if I stop reading? Do I then have to apply all of these things that I've learned? And that was a hugely daunting task. I didn't even consciously ask myself this for a long time. But if you're someone who reads a lot of books, ask that to yourself. What happens if you stop? What do you do when you're not always learning? What do you feel? Because you're covering up something. Covering up something. And essentially this was just a pretty prison that I built. So even though it felt good, I was like mentally masturbating, feels good, it's not actually doing anything. And so now, the way that I look at life is much more calm, it's much more enjoyable. I don't have to go try and find all these things in order to be good enough. I can allow life to be my teacher. Whatever's happening in front of me is the relevant lesson. And so if there is a part of a book or a quote or an idea that I need to learn, I have found over the last 8 months since I've stopped reading that these things always come to me. Whether it's through a friend who will tell me something, whether it's through something that I'll see on Instagram when I scroll sometimes, whether it's through just like an inspiration in my mind of like, oh my god, I remember that from so long ago. Even if it's from like a quote on a wallpaper on a coffee shop, the information that I need is always presented to me. And then that actually gives me the space to apply what I'm learning. There's a much more equal balance of what I'm learning and what I'm applying. And so then there's not this huge gap, but it's actually rising together. That creates a very enjoyable sense of like peace and relaxation. And for me at first this was really difficult, but as I've continued over the months, I've seen that this actually is creating change faster for me. So that's what I'm hoping to share and impart in this. Now, a couple core beliefs is that I always have what I need when I need it, and this is something that is an underlying foundational piece of reality. And you will not ever find this not to be true. You can look back at every single scenario in your life, and you will find that you have always had what you needed, even if it wasn't always what you wanted. When you have a learner's mindset or a learner's perspective, you will see that everything always happens for your benefit. So this has been my experience. Now, as I've let go of trying, and I've let go of my anchor in someone who is into self-development or a learner, someone who's super disciplined and all these things, as I've let go of that more and more, my identity is now anchored in God. And so you don't have to be Christian to understand this, but there's this idea that comes from the Bible, which is that we're saved by grace, not by works. And again, you don't need to be Christian, but if you look at this idea, you will see that it is true. The people who you would look up to, who are successful in life, who enjoy themselves and have the things in the world that we all want, most of us want, they will all have some sort of story of how everything just worked out, or of how things just lined up. The opportunity just came, and they were, maybe they were prepared, but something happened that was out of their control. And what I've seen is that actually, as I do less, and I allow more space for things to happen, then when things happen, I can respond in the right way, and I can actually make the best of that opportunity, rather than being tired because I was reading books all day. And it's not always the case where you're tired from reading books, I understand. But my mind was so filled with all of this information that I didn't have anywhere to put it or use it, and all of these distortions, which prevented me from seeing what was actually going on. And so now, as I can clear out some of those distortions, it allows me to open up my perception, see what's going on inside me, so inside and outside, and experience and respond more appropriately and quicker. So now, I mentioned this, but as I'm sinking into this feeling more and more since the beginning of this year really, that I'm complete and I'm loved as I am right now, I cannot do anything to make that increase or decrease. I'm already loved infinitely right now. These are the things that I'm doing, which, as I've been explaining in this video, have given me a now let's say, positively reinforcing loop. So as I move slower, as I do less, as I enjoy the things that I do more, something as simple as washing the dishes, if I slow down and actually enjoy it as I do it, then it can bring me energy rather than take it away. Same if it's like creating an automation for a business that we're working on. If I slow down and I enjoy it rather than being frustrated because I can't figure out how to get it work and I'm just going back and forth with ChatGPT and I'm in this state of like tension, if I actually slow down and I enjoy, I breathe, I do all of these things, I enjoy it more, that allows me to have more to give, or I'm generally in a more positive state. People enjoy being around me more, so they want to give me more. I can trust more in God's plan. All these things have just reinforced themselves again and again. And so this has fallen away piece by piece. This isn't something that I unlearned overnight, but I would recommend stopping to read and sitting with yourself as a beautiful first step, or coming to join our community and booking a free call with me, or coming to one of our free calls every week. And so the idea is this. The reason that I was reading books was from a deep place of shame, of not feeling like I was good enough as I am. And when I was young, this was reinforced from parents, right? Rewarding me when I got good grades. And me seeing that, oh, I get attention or I get love when I perform well, when I am actively progressing towards something, or when I'm doing something good, when I'm getting a good outcome. And so we can understand that most people will have some sort of experience of their parents wanting them to be good in some way and rewarding them for that. And yes, we can understand that, but the important part is that it's now our responsibility to change. It is your responsibility to actually enjoy your life, and I will leave you with this. The only real measure of intelligence and the only real measure of success is how much you're actually enjoying your life right now. Not in the future, not with all the things that you have, but how much you enjoy your life. And if you can focus on that one skill, enjoying your life, and understanding what's creating enjoyment, you can be curious about that. We'll see that all of these things that we want, the money, the relationships, the friends, the business, whatever, the body, these will all come in a much more enjoyable way, in a faster way, in a way that is actually steeped or rooted in something fulfilling and meaningful, rather than just an empty outcome that when we reach, we replace with something else. I love you so much.